we have audio. Dan Morgan, GM of the Panthers. Brandt, Tillis, assistant GM of the Panthers. Less than a month now, I believe, until the NFL draft.
4 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay, a month, whatever it ends up being.
4 weeks from tomorrow.
So they're getting ready for their second time leading the Panthers through the draft, and obviously coming out of mostly their free agent decisions. They're still, Stephon Diggs signed for $1 bajillion yesterday. So there's still some moves that need to take place.
3 years, $69 million. Nice deal.
There it is. So there's still a little bit of that going on, but for the most part, free agency, like the work is done. Draft just getting into the crunch time. So it's a really interesting time to hear from the GM and the assistant GM. They spoke just earlier today, so this is first time having the audio on air. We'll start with Dan Morgan, which is a clip about what free agency has done and allowed them to be going into the draft.
We're going to take the best players. So however that ends up on the board when it comes to pick 8, if pick 8's an offensive guy or a defensive guy, we're just going to draft the best player that we feel is going to help our team, help our organization moving forward. And, we're really not going to box ourselves in with, any position or any need. I think that's when you get yourself in trouble, is when you do those type of things.
I think that what he just said shows their goal of free agency, right? Free agency was very obvious I said it earlier, to not have any positions that you need to draft. I was dramatic with it, or die, right? It's not like you need a tackle or you die, and the dramatic nature, right? You don't actually die, but you fail. Right? It's not, we need a corner or we fail. We need an edge rusher or we fail. They went and got enough pieces at darn near every position, maybe not safety, but safety, they're available in the market. Enough positions to do what they said and just take best player available. The hard part is this. There's a follow-up question that no GM will ever answer, right? We're going to take the best player available. The follow-up question that they'll never answer is, how do you judge who's the best player, right? Is it the same? Like if the off-ball middle linebacker is the best off-ball middle linebacker, is that the same as being a little bit less but a edge rusher? Is a quarterback being the same as a corner? What if the best player available is a quarterback? You have Bryce Young. Right? Does that knock him down in your best player available rankings? What if Shedeur Sanders is there and you have him as the 6th best player in the draft? You're picking 8th, and you already have Bryce Young, right? It's best play BPA, best player available, sounds lovely. It's really, how do you judge that? I think everybody drafts best player available. It's how do you decide who the best player available is? That is the follow up they'll never answer. Let's jump to a Brandt Tillis. Let's maybe go back and forth on this one.
Okay.
Because the other big news of the offseason was they made J.C. Horn, at the time, the highest paid defensive back in the history of the NFL, a title that he wore for exactly 1 week before it was taken away. Derrick Stingley, right? Ended up signing for more per year. Here's Brandt Tillis on how the organization viewed J.C. Horn during that negotiation.
We got to a point internally where we said, okay, here's a player who worked his tail off to be healthy for most of the season, got a little unlucky towards the end, was able to play in the Pro Bowl. And how do we want to go about this? This is a core player for us. Are we going to bet on JC or bet against him? And so we elected to bet on him, and we're extremely excited to have him here for the next 5 years.
Here's different organizations operate, I would say in this specific situation, there's kind of 2 ways to operate. One is you want to be one of the franchises that is seen as you reward your dudes. The other is you want to be a franchise that needs to get the 100% max value out of every dollar, analytically the max value. Because J.C. Horn drafted as a Panther. J.C. Horn developed, rehabbed through injuries as a Panther, struggled through the down years as a Panther. This past year played really, really well as a Panther. So they made him the highest paid defensive back in NFL history. Does anybody think J.C. Horn is the best defensive back in the NFL? I don't think so. But he's a Panther, so they made him that. Right? If you're looking analytically, you're looking at him and going, well, his defensive win share and his DVOA minus, well, I don't know all the, says that he should be the 11th highest paid corner, whatever it says. If you listen to that, you probably wouldn't have made this deal. But the Panthers and Dan Morgan being a former player, I think this comes through. They see value in rewarding their guys because it becomes a place that people want to play. Like it becomes, you see that value in future free agents where you get to, during negotiations, say, you saw what we did with J.C. Horn, right? If you show up and you go to work every day, we'll take care of you. You just have to trust us because we've done this. Those are the two ways to operate. Either you do not believe there's value in that, in which case you're nickel and diming J.C. Horn, and you're saying, all right, yeah, fine, go into this year playing on your contract now, and if you get hurt, that's going to cost you a bunch of money. You can play hardball, or you can say, yeah, we'll give you the little bit more now, right? We'll give you $100 million rather than $90, right? We'll give you the whatever guaranteed rather than $8 million less guaranteed. And we're going to hope to get that money back in reputation. Oftentimes you see smaller market teams operate more on that way than the bigger market, because the bigger market, they get it the other way. All right, Dennis, you've heard this audio. Which one's more interesting? We have one more from Tillis, one more from Morgan, and time for one more. Do we want to talk about the targets they went after in free agency with Dan Morgan, or do we want to talk about the players they added in free agency and what's being built with Canales on Brandt Tillis' side?
Let's go with the Dan Morgan one.
All right, here's Dan Morgan on the targets they wanted in free agency.
I think we pretty much hit on all our targets. Obviously, the Milton Williams thing, that fell through. We're really excited about Turk and what he brings. But yeah, we're excited about those guys that we signed. I do think it's going to allow us to be flexible in the draft. But, like I said before, we were going to build our defensive front. I think we did that. We signed 3 guys there. So I think at each level, defensive line, linebacker, on the back end with Trevon, I think we addressed some needs that we have. We're far from done. There's a lot of work to do. And we're excited about the draft. We have 9 picks, and we're going to go attack it.
9 picks, and they're going to go attack it. First of all, 9's a lot. Sometimes it's hard to roster 9 rookies if you're trying to field a competitive team, especially if a lot of those picks are mid-rounds to late, because you'd expect the immediate contributors to be drafted at the upper part of the draft. So it's there's still a lot of chess to be played, and they've got a lot of like rooks and bishops. They're not only pawns out there. They got a lot of pieces they can move around in a bunch of different ways. You can tell I play a lot of chess. Not at all. But my point is there's a lot
of knights. Let's go.
Yeah, a lot of knights to E4. I don't know. There's a lot of moves that they still can make, right? So, what's their grade for the offseason? Incomplete. That's my grade for them yet. They still have to turn in their final paper and their final project. A lot of wiggle room here, but they're passing at the moment.
Let me ask you this real quick question.
Let's do it. 9
picks. They draft less because of maneuvering up around. They take less than 9. Do they draft right number 9 picks, or do they potentially draft more than 9 in this year's draft?
I think they walk away with less than 9 players.
Okay.
Some of that might be converted to future picks.
Sure.
But I think they walk away with less than 9 players drafted. And it's such a small sample size. But Dan Morgan in his first year, I do think showed signs of being I'm going to go get my guy GM. If I'm sitting here in the 4th and there's a guy I really like and it's the late 3rd, I'm not just going to put my hands in my pocket and go, I really hope he's here in the 4th. He's going to make a call, and he's just going to see. So I think with 9 picks, I think they'll end up moving up a few times to get their guy, whoever their guy is. We have a month to decide who we want to be their guy. Mm-hmm. Hopefully a fast running back in the 4th. That's about where I'm at as far as mid-round goals. I want a fast running back in the 4th.